catch a tourist by the toe, don't you scream, don't you shout. The time has come to take you out.
Welcome to Now Playing's review of Desperation.
This is Desperation. Only thing out here is Canta and Cantac. And don't you forget it.
Part of the Now Playing Stephen King movie series.
He's famous amongst book people, I guess.
Hosted by Arnie.
Are you a nice person?
Well, I like to think so.
Stuart.
You're crazy. I like that person.
And Jacob.
Just one big happy family. Tack.
These podcasts contain detailed plot spoilers and harsh language.
Eat me, said the cake to Alice.
Listener discretion is advised.
And if you leave now, you'll smell tack on your skin for the rest of your life.
Today we're discussing Desperation, starring Tom Skerritt, Steven Weber, Annabeth Gish, Shane Habucha, Sammy Henratty, and Ron Perlman. Directed by the one, the only, the auteur, Mick Garris.
Master of horror.
We've covered enough horror of his. I think we've covered as much as we've covered Wes Craven. This is Arnie, the Now Playing co-host who's desperate to cover anything except this movie.
You can call me Cookie, but don't you dare call me Cake. It's Stuart.
And this is the co-host who Donald Rumsfeld demands me to stop. Adam Sandler demands me to stop. Ann Coulter demands me to stop. But I ain't never going to stop podcasting. This is Jacob.
And we're never going to get through the Stephen King series. We're almost 80 deep now. It's number 79.
80 Stephen King movies, 8 recommends? I mean, we're really... I exaggerate to make a point, but yeah, this has not been as bad as the video game series, but certainly hasn't been our most glowing of series.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is Stephen King was a phenomenon in the 80s. We're now in his later books, ones that I don't think any of us have read. I read this one for the first time just in preparation of this. But Desperation is not a title that you feel mass audiences know from Stephen King.
It's a foreboding title, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it might be prophetic, but my point is people know it, even if you didn't read it. You know, they know The Stand. They know The Shining. We're now reaching deeper cuts. And good or bad, my point is that, yes, it's just less impactful for people to come to this than it would be It or The Stand. And yes, Mick Garris, for the 5th time, is adapting a Stephen King work. 6th time if you count that Michael Jackson video, Ghosts, that King wrote for MJ. Look it up. I'm telling you. But yeah, he's been making King movies for 15 years, starting with Sleepwalkers. And yeah, you, Arnie, I think are the lone person to recommend one of his films. You liked that 1994 Stand.
And I stand by that, no pun intended. I really do enjoy that miniseries, even though I realize it looks kind of cheap. It's still the best adaptation of The Stand, and I think it did a good job of bringing me in. But I don't look at his name with optimism when I see it attached to any project, let alone a Stephen King project. He just seems like Stephen King's go-to to bully. Anyone who would take on The Shining has to be desperate to take on Desperation as well, or just Stephen King's whipping boy who will do exactly what he is told.
I mean, that's the beef, right? That's what we've always said about Mick Garris, is that he doesn't make creative choices. It's kind of like how they spell out faith in this movie, of like, you just do what God says, or what Stephen King says, and you get to the ending. I'm not kidding. He literally launched a show on Showtime called Masters of Horror, in which the whole premise, I don't know if you've ever seen it, it's a horror anthology, kind of like, you know, a creep show or something like that. But you get all the great directors of the genre together to make each installment. He made one, so he's putting himself in the company of John Carpenter, Dario Argento, Takashi Miike. I mean, this guy literally gave himself the label Master of Horror by this time.
Yeah, I mean, there were Tobe Hooper, John Carpenter, Tom Holland, who did Fright Night and Child's Play.
Not Spider-Man.
Yeah, not that Tom Holland. Don Coscarelli, who did Phantasm. I mean, there were a lot of people. I saw some of the Masters of Horror episodes. I can't say I was a devoted viewer, but yeah, he created the show, so I guess he gets to direct a couple of episodes. I don't know if I could take that as his ego declaring himself a master of horror. I mean, he did do Psycho 4 after all.
I mean, he's been in the genre for a long time, and at this point, he is Stephen King's favorite director. Stephen King trusts him. It should be said, Stephen King is adapting this book himself personally. He has gotten so protective of what, I don't know, others could do to his work to improve it. God forbid we get a Kubrick again. So he's going to write the screenplay, and Mick Garris is going to direct it, and it's going to be as close to the book as possible. Well, I got good news. I read Desperation, and I thought it was a decent book. If they're adapting a Stephen King 700-page book, this is a decent, what I would call his Evil Town kind of novel. Not as good as Salem's Lot, better than Tommyknockers, better than Needful Things, probably on par, this is going to be controversial, with It. It, to me, is a messy book, and Desperation is about as good.
I'm not a King reader. My wife is. She would read everything as it was coming out. And as I put this one on, she's like, oh, I love this book until you find out what the evil is. Which feels like in line for King. Like, It, great scary clown book until he's a crab from space.
Yeah, the endings are always bad.
And I read this book just for this review. I hadn't read it. I bought it when it came out along with its partner novel, The Regulators, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I really enjoyed this book. I kind of went into it with a heavy heart because it's a heavy book. It's a lot of pages. And I know it was later King. I wasn't too excited. I don't know if I'd call it the evil town because the town is completely dead by the time you get there. And we really focus on about 6 or 8 main characters as compared to It had a sprawling cast if you include the bullies who had their own plots and everything, and Salem's Lot had so many characters. Here, it's a very sparse cast, but he gets right into the action with that one, and it's kind of a relentless tale. There's constant suspense and constant action going on, and I really did enjoy the read. I was surprised how much I liked the book. I'd call it, upper tier King, but I wouldn't put it past The Stand or It or any of those.
You think It's a great book?
I think it's really good, yeah.
Okay. To me, problematic. Yeah. Unwieldy. And what I meant by evil small town is you're going to find that this town did something awful and the evil is punishing everyone here because of it. We've had that story of the vampires that are going to drain Salem's Lot, Castle Rock, right? Like he loves to demystify and demonize in some ways small town life.
And just really quick, it did have a companion book, The Regulators, which came out the same day. They had connecting covers if you got the first printings of those so that they would form one mural. And what it had were characters with the same names, but completely different characters in completely different tales. The Regulators was actually, as you mentioned, Stuart, King wrote the script for Desperation, the movie, right? So he wrote the book Desperation, then he wrote the script Desperation. Well, he wrote the script The Regulators for Sam Peckinpah to direct.
Wow.
And they were actually in production on that when Sam Peckinpah died. And so he took the script for The Regulators and wrote a novel out of it. So it kind of had the reverse journey.
Yeah, Sam Peckinpah, Wild Bunch, Straw Dogs. I would have loved to have seen that one. But worth pointing out, I think they build them as mirror novels. Alternative universes both have tack in them, and both kind of go to a Wild West scenario. One is written by Richard Bachman, so technically speaking, that explains why it's a different universe. It's King's alter ego writing The Regulators. I read a poll, and they asked a bunch of King fans, what's the novel of his you'd like to most see get made that hasn't been already? Regulators topped that list. I didn't get a chance to read it, but I know it's been optioned. Maybe one day we'll see what tack does on the flip side.
Yeah, I imagine there's nothing by King that hasn't been optioned.
Right.
Desperation was optioned by New Line Cinema to be a feature film shortly after Michael Jackson's Ghost. It was going to be in the late 90s. New Line Cinema, $33 million, greenlit project, go, with Mick Garris directing.
Okay. You lost me with that. But yeah, I understand the idea of making it a film, like a feature in the movie theaters. That's a good idea. I don't want any more ABC TV.
Was there some kind of bad blood falling out? Is that why King has to kill Peter Jackson in this?
His character was named Peter Jackson in the novel.
Really? I thought for sure that was a change.
I wondered if he intentionally named him Peter Jackson, because Peter Jackson had done some horror work by that point. Was it a shout out to Peter Jackson, or was it just a coincidence because Peter's a common name, Jackson's a common last name, and then they added the Lord of the Rings line for the movie? But according to Mick Garris, the reason that project got torpedoed was Scream. After Scream, all the studio wanted was ironic horror, self-aware horror. They didn't want to do balls to the wall, straight up horror. And so Desperation went into development hell. Time passed, and then ABC came back looking to dig in the mine a little bit more and say, hey, can you give us another Stephen King miniseries? And they had Desperation ready to go. And it didn't even take that many tweaks to the script, a little bit of pacing so that they could have commercial breaks with suspense so you stay through the ads. But it was going to be a 2-night miniseries and then condensed down. The $33 million budget was gone, a $12 million budget for a 1-night 3-hour event.
Thank you, whoever made that budget. I did not want to come back multiple nights.
I was there for it. I was really in a Ron Perlman phase because of Hellboy, and I'd seen some other stuff he'd been doing, Blade 2. And so Ron Perlman was a big draw for me. Stephen King was a big draw for me.
In 2006.
In 2006.
Okay. Yes. The heyday of the ABC Stephen King 2-night miniseries was long over. Like, we're 12 years beyond The Stand at this point. And this is actually the last one. ABC will never make another Stephen King miniseries because of it. There's a few we haven't covered yet because we're going in book chronology. But ABC is done after Desperation.
Yeah, but I was there when it premiered, my wife and I, turning this on to watch, and you guys know me. I'm a completist. It's really hard for me. I've never walked out of a theater in my life. I don't really start movies without finishing them. Even The Love Guru, which was so bad my wife had to turn it off. I woke up early the next morning to finish The Love Guru. I could not leave that undone.
I understand the compulsion. I am the same way. My whole family will abandon me, and I'm like, I'm going to see this movie through.
Yeah, if you've cared enough to start it, it takes a whole lot to walk away.
Not for Desperation, it didn't take a whole lot to walk away. I have to say, about midpoint, Ron Perlman checks out of the movie, and I'd checked out of this movie long before that point, and we were like, do you want to continue watching it? I don't. And this was on network TV. It's not like I had the chance to just finish it the next day. I just hit stop and walked away and was done with this. Never to look back until now. So I can't say I was highly anticipating returning. I remembered the feeling more than I remembered the details of the production. I just remembered Ron Perlman in a big hat.
All that fisheye lens in his face. He's got a big mug anyway. So
yeah,
you're getting a lot of Ron Perlman in your face.
Yeah, they made his teeth look like Stonehenge, I think. There were huge teeth in this on my home theater. But yeah, I was not exactly anticipating this to be top tier King that we were covering because I remembered turning it off.
Yeah. And again, ABC must not have had much faith in it. It premiered in sweeps, but against the number one show in America. Fox had the series finale, like who are you going to vote for, American Idol, up against this. Nobody voted for Ron Perlman. Let me just tell you, this thing got, I think, 7 million viewers.
But if you think it looks cheap, Mick Garris is proud it came in under budget. Budget of $12 million came in way under budget. So this was done for a paltry sum. I imagine ABC would have trouble losing money on this in the long run, especially since they did release it on DVD with a director's commentary. It's what I watched. I watched it twice for this review, counting director's commentary.
Yeah, they even got some Emmy nominations. Technical, the Best Art Direction.
Technical? Art direction?
Best Art Direction and Best Sound Mixing. So, like, Ron Perlman wasn't up for a statue.
It must have been a bad year in sound mixing, too. Wow.
They didn't win. They didn't win, if that makes you feel better. But I was going to ask. You obviously saw something that was released on a DVD. I went to go find this movie, and everywhere I usually can, it was not there. I was going to have to buy it for $10. And I normally just swallow that pill and do it. But when I saw that YouTube had a version that was only 5 minutes shorter, I said, okay. So I watched the thing that you can see for free. And I advise people, if you're going to watch this, find that YouTube cut. I don't know where the edits are, but as we talk about the movie, I imagine if you bring up things I've not heard about, it's only 5 minutes. Can't be much.
Yeah, this King retrospective has been going on so long. When we first decided to do it, I went out and I would get the discs, rip them, and I don't know where those discs are anymore, but I have a hard drive with a bunch of King stuff that we haven't done yet, and this is sitting on there, so I'm guessing I watched the DVD version. But yeah, it's something I did a long time ago when we first announced this.
Okay, well, let's do it then. Arnie, I'm feeling desperate. Let's find out what happens.
Desperation is not just Mick Garris' career, but it's a small mining town in Nevada. The miners there in 1850 found a cavern in which lived an earth demon called a Wazine. They released this demon, but a cave-in trapped the demon back in the mine. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Stuart. Wazine is not from the book. That was added for the teleplay. I don't remember Wazine.
You know what? There's a lot of tack-tack-tuka-taka talk.
I just remember tack.
Yeah, I didn't write down all the garbage. I'm sorry, all the lore. So, yeah, I don't remember that word, no.
Then, just before the events of this movie, the mine became active again, and the new miners again opened the cavern, releasing the Wazine named Tack. Tack possessed a Desperation police officer named Kali Intragian, played by Ron Perlman. Before this movie begins, Intragian kills every resident of Desperation, save for one, an old veterinarian named Tom Billingsley, played by Charles Durning. He's taken to the jail by Intragian and locked up there. Then Intragian, possessed by Tack, pulls over and abducts some travelers on the highway near Desperation. Those include the Carver family, husband Ralph Carver, played by Matt Frewer, wife Ellen Carver, son David Carver, and daughter Pye Carver. Intragian kills Pye and locks the other three in jail. Next pulled over is married couple Peter and Mary Jackson, played by Henry Thomas and Annabeth Gish, respectively. Intragian shoots and kills Peter and locks Mary in the jail cell. Finally captured is writer Johnny Marinville, played by Tom Skerritt. Johnny is on a cross-country motorcycle trip when captured and taken to the jail. See, the spirit of Tack is too powerful, and it destroys whatever body it possesses. Intragian's use is almost at an end, so Tack takes Ellen Carver to the mine to use her body next. While Intragian and Ellen are gone, young David, guided by visions sent to him from God, yes, that God, the Christian God that King usually makes fun of.
Maybe.
I think he does end up making fun of him here. We'll discuss it.
Well, David soaps up his entire body in a lather to get slippery and get through the bars of the jail cell when he then frees the others.
It's a miracle, I tell you.
M. Night must be jealous of this kind of writing.
Yes, it really did have some happening qualities.
Joining the group are Steve Ames, played by Steven Weber, and Cynthia Smith, played by Kelly Overton. Steve was Johnny's roadie, following behind the author in a truck. Along the way, he picked up hitchhiker Cynthia. When Johnny was abducted, Steve went looking for his ward and found him in the town of Desperation. The group hole up in a theater to wait out a sandstorm, but Tack goes on the offensive. Tack is able to control animals, so he has a cougar attack and kill Tom. Then Tack, now in Ellen's body, captures Mary to transfer his spirit to next. Mary eventually escapes and catches back up with the rest of the group, and with Mary escaped, Tack, desperately needing a new body, transfers his spirit into a nearby vulture. But thanks to his visions, David knows that Tack lies at the bottom of the mine, and through an explosion, can be trapped there again. Johnny just wants to get out of town, but David convinces the old author that God is real and means for them to stop Tack. Trying to stop the group, Tack, in the vulture's body, attacks and kills David's father, but then the vulture itself is killed. David is prepared to sacrifice himself for the explosion to trap Tack, but Johnny takes that position. With some explosions found in a mining shack nearby, Johnny goes down to the deepest pit of the mine and sets off a giant explosion, which kills Johnny, but entombs Tack once again. And the 4 survivors, David, Mary, Steve, and Cynthia, ride out of Desperation and back to civilization as credits roll. Now, I listed the cast there, and wow, if you weren't just enticed by Mick Garris returning, I mean, we've got Henry Thomas, who we've covered in Gerald's Game, and he would eventually do Dr. Sleep in the Jack Nicholson role, and we got Matt Frewer here from Quicksilver Highway, The Stand, we'll see him again in Bag of Bones.
Don't forget about Job's War. That's his best work. Lawnmower Man 2.
Oh, yes. I forgot that was Stephen King.
Well, it isn't. He sued and proved it wasn't.
And then, of course, we've got Jack Nicholson's successor himself, Steven Weber, here, who also would do Nightmares and Dreamscapes and the Shining TV miniseries. So a lot of Stephen King alums reuniting here.
Tom Skerritt.
Tom Skerritt did Stephen King?
He was the cop in Dead Zone.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And are you saying this is a good thing? Because I'm watching these opening credits. Steven Weber, oh no. Matt Frewer, oh no. Like, how bad is this going to get?
It starts off bonkers right away. We have an opening shot where we pan through the desert to a sign with a crucified cat. There's a cat strung up on Highway 55, the loneliest highway in America, and a couple passes by it and asks, why would anyone do that? And we never get an answer, so I'm going to ask, why did they do that? Why did Tack string up the cat?
We'll see, some dead dogs on the Desperation sign later. I thought Tack was using these animals, that he liked them. I took it by the end of this film is, well, why would it be crucified, though? I thought he was possessing animals, too, to have some kind of body, but I don't know why he would crucify the cat.
No, there's an altar of Tok-Toks. I don't even remember what it's Tok-Mas. I don't know. Kanta, there we go.
This is all lore from the Dark Tower series, by the way, so...
Okay.
There's a lot of tie-ins.
All right, hence why I don't know much about it or care. Even when I was a Stephen King fan, wasn't going near those.
And I read all 7 before that movie, so I remember some of this vaguely.
Okay, helpful. Thank you. Yes, obviously the main beastie loves, reveres, and uses animals, which makes me just think that he was stringing up roadkill. Like this was just a cat that he found on the road and didn't want it to go to waste. He does hang up dead bodies in the book. I think it's more clear there.
Yeah, we'll get like a locker room full of dead miners hanging, I think.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool image. Like, I am desperate to grasp onto anything for a made-for-TV King feature that we're going to have to review. So I'm like, crucified cat, kind of cool. Yes, it'll never be explained why that was done, but it's a nice image to open up with.
Yeah, good point, Stuart, because this is straight out of the book. This is an adaptation written by King, so it follows the book pretty much plot beat for plot beat. It is abridged, of course, because that's a 650-page novel, but yeah, the animals are strung up there too, and now that you mention it, it does make no sense.
Yeah, and I want to give a compliment. I heard something that you said that really needs to be underlined. Stephen King is verbose, and that book was too long. Yeah, at nearly 700 pages, I definitely felt like, oh, we don't need a 2-night event. That they have found a way to make it a 3-hour, 1-night event. I don't know whether to compliment Stephen King for that or the, decreasing budget. But this is a much tighter version of the story, and I think it's better for that. Congrats to screenwriter Stephen King for finding a way into his story without belaboring it. Because it kind of plays Tarantino. Like that first part of the novel, the way that it cuts back and forth in time, it has a non-chronology that kind of felt a little Pulp Fiction. You know, that was the time that it was written in. Like you didn't really know what was happening because you were moving between all these characters and who got caught when. Here, I think it's just much cleaner that we see the only road abductions happening here, first with Henry Thomas and Mary, and then the Tom Skerritt author.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you in that I think a lot of motivation was lost here. And I think if you had somebody other than Stephen King doing the adaptation, you may have had stronger character motivations out of this. I feel like what was cut is the connective tissue that made me care a whit about these characters, because I did care about all of them in the book.
Oh.
And on this TV series, I feel like the worst one, the one who gets cut to ribbons in this, is little David, who we'll talk about.
Cut him more to ribbons.
Yeah, I mean, you can make ribbons out of all of them. I didn't really like any of the characters in the book, and, you know, maybe that's just my feelings about the way King writes characters, but I was happy to see all of that go. I think you're right. You get a little bit here with Mary and Peter Jackson, that they're driving a car to New York for his sister who's dropped out of college.
Which, talk about desperation. Like, yeah, Mary's looking forward to getting to Salt Lake City. Not a place you want to look forward to getting to.
I mean, some people like it, but you would like it more than the town of Desperation because they don't employ cops like this big guy that pulls them over. Actually, he doesn't even pull them over. He plays games with them. He tails them without turning on his lights. He passes them and then slows down. He's clearly predatory, and they don't even want to stop.
Don't you hate it when cops do that? I've had cops do that to me. I hate it when cops do that. They play those games. They just fuck with you.
Oh, no, I've had cops, like, brake check me, and then I go around them, and they throw their lights on. I'm like, dude, you're going slow. You're going under the speed limit. But I want to give this film, this TV movie, a compliment, if I can.
Sounds tentative. All right, let's hear it.
Well, for this part at least, I could compliment it. I will say I am intrigued by this opening scene with Collie, Ron Perlman's cop character, and Mary and Peter Jackson. Like, there's some tenseness going on, like, while he's playing with them. It feels a little bit like Duel. And then when he pulls him over, and you just know, like, it's Ron Perlman, the angles that Mick Garris is choosing to use with extreme close-ups and just kind of weird angles. It's scary might not be the right word, but I'm not at ease with it. Like, I am gripped, and my kids are watching this with me, and usually if I'm watching garbage like this, they are nonstop talking. I'm like, you guys gotta leave. I gotta take notes and actually pay attention to this. They're quiet. Like, yeah, it looks cheap, but it kind of works, this opening scene with them getting harassed by this cop. Like, I want to know what's going to happen.
Let me ask you, Jacob, because when I'm reading the book, I figure Peter Jackson is our main character. He's the one who's introduced.
Yep.
Stephen King usually has a male character as the lead, and so when he gets killed, I was shocked. Now, because I read the book first, I knew this was coming, but here we have him played by Henry Thomas, who, yes, E.T., but is an actor who's done a lot of work throughout his career. Did you expect Henry Thomas to be in the rest of this movie? Were you shocked when he gets killed?
Yeah, I thought this was going to be about Peter and Mary Jackson getting harassed by this corrupt cop, and then something spooky would happen because it's Stephen King. But yeah, I thought these were our main characters for the whole film.
I was a little bit cooler to this opening. It is the production values.
Please hear what I'm saying. It is on a relative scale.
I hear it. To me, it felt a little Twisted Sister music video, the way he's screaming at them.
Yeah, there's campiness. That's a good thing. Usually a Stephen King TV production has very little to offer. I will take camp. I like that.
Here's what I loved. Here's where I'll join you, is that we have one moment where they're passing by a mine, and they really went on location to a very cool place. Like, that mine is massive. I didn't even know we had mines like that in America. And I'm like, damn, are they really going to shoot in that? Because that is cool. Now, no, they're mostly going to go to sound stages, and it won't capture this grandeur. But yes, as a location, I do like it.
Yeah, and I'll say I like Ron Perlman in this. He goes big, and then he goes home.
To the detriment of the film.
Yeah, he's the best part of this film in my mind. He really can take character turns where he can seem like just your standard cop who's usually pretty emotionless, pretty cold, pretty stoic. And then he can go friendly, like when he's telling Peter Jackson, hey, you lost your license plate, and if you take your front plate and put it on the rear, you'll get across the country okay. And then go really mean when they find the marijuana in the trunk that was Peter Jackson's sister's weed, not their weed. And he goes even more extreme with those emotions later on.
I love it when he's reading the Miranda rights and he slips in, I'm going to kill you. Like, yeah, Twisted Sister is probably the right way to do it. But again, there's a campiness, and just Ron Perlman has a presence where, look, this is not great, but I'm invested. This is better than I expected so far.
I would like to dial it all down, including Ron Perlman. I don't think it's a Jack Nicholson crazy performance, but better than Steven Weber's shining crazy performance. How about that?
For sure.
Anything is better than that Shining, okay? Kiss It is not what I've been missing.
A Jew, a Hindu, or Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, some of these lines, these gotta be from the book because it's King adapting it, but wow, some wild lines throughout this.
There are lines that King writes that you can read, but you can't say. Like, don't call me cookie, I won't call you cake.
Yes, one of my favorites.
That might work on the page, but to hear it said, I feel bad for the actors who have to say some of this dialogue.
And then later, the child's name Pie. I'm like, was King hungry? What's with all this?
Pie Carver? Yeah, is she working at a bakery?
This sounds like someone that needs to take a break from the word processor and get a snack.
Which wasn't her real name in the book. It was a nickname. But here, that's all they're going to call her, is Pie.
Yes. She's waiting for them when they finally get to the police station, the dead body of the child, which again was haunting on the page. Here, as envisioned by Mick Garris, just it looks random and not creepy.
And a budget that came in under $12 million. Yeah, the lighting, everything is off.
Yes. Spend a little bit more money and make this horrific because, by the way, you're not making a slapstick comedy, you're making a horror movie.
Yeah, I think the bad production values can't be stressed enough. This movie's look had a stench to it of cheap video.
Yes. Here's the shocker. Like, again, it probably doesn't look any worse than It or The Stand, but this is 15 years later. You don't have any excuse.
I was shocked that this was 2006. It looks so 90s.
Keep that in mind, and you really can't explain what you're watching.
Yeah, when they drop lines like Ann Coulter and Donald Rumsfeld, I'm like, oh, wait, this isn't 1992.
Right, yes. And again, I think that's reflected in the ratings. In 1994, that was acceptable. In 2006, I'm going to go vote for The Idols. I'm not going to watch this. But yes, Mary loses her husband, sees a dead child on the stairwell, gets thrown in a jail cell next to a bunch of strangers she's going to get to know.
Well, she gets a shotgun and has a chance to shoot Collie here, and it's just the weirdest standoff. Like, he just ducks under a desk until she decides to fire it randomly and, like, just walk around and shoot him. Like, he's a big target. It's Ron Perlman.
Yeah, and what would happen if you shot Tack? I get the sense that he's supernatural.
That mist would go out into someone else, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I mean, the body would collapse, but yes, it would find another host.
That's not how I take it. I take it that Tack is at least this embodiment of Tack. Tack is, a red eye at the bottom of the mine. But this embodiment of Tack is limited to the body it's in. And so if the body dies, that would really take care of the problem until somebody goes back in the mine. So, I mean, we see later on that the bodies Tack takes over die. They just fall apart under him, and he has to change bodies before the one body gives out.
But you just open your mouth and let that, CGI mist come out, and then they're in somebody else.
Yes, but it seems like it's a ritual. I don't know.
No, we'll see it at the end with Ellen. She just, is dying and breathes into a vulture, and that becomes Tack.
Yeah, but here he takes Ellen away to the mine like it's some kind of big ritual to get out of Trajan's body and into Ellen's body.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and why take her? Of all the people, I get why you want to be a physically imposing cop, and to hear the local tell it, being Tack actually makes you grow a few inches. He's even taller because Tack's in him, but, Ron Perlman is a big guy. Even without an evil spirit in him, I would be intimidated. Yeah, that he's going to choose this crabby mom. I'm just glad she's dead because she's going to heckle her son for praying in this moment.
I mean, I probably would have heckled. We were all heckling the kid as he played too. It's so silly. But trying to understand this lore a bit more, does Tack, I guess he's an evil entity, or it's an evil entity and it makes you do evil things? Because I'm wondering, why shoot Peter Jackson? Why shoot Pie Carver? Don't you just want a bunch of bodies to hop into as you need them if you degrade them so quickly?
Don't ask what Tack wants. Just follow what God tells you to. Or Stephen King. Whatever. Just do what you're supposed to do.
There's a wonderful moment in the book where Tack is reflecting on what does it want. And it really has modest goals, and that's to kill a lot. It doesn't want to take over the world. It doesn't want to resurrect itself and terraform to hell.
This shouldn't have shown up in Desperation, Nevada then. Not a lot of people there.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny scene because it's like Tack doesn't know Tack is instinct. Tack is to kill or to survive.
Yes, this crew, kill them all. I just want to say this cast, these characters, I'm not deeply invested in anyone. And even if you like Ron Perlman, he's looking bad early on here. Like, he starts with, maybe just needing some chapstick, but it's not long before his face is cracking and, yeah, he's just bleeding out.
And Tom Skerritt's an actor I usually like. I think he's pretty effortless, whether I'm watching him in Contact or Picket Fences or Alien or Top Gun. Tom Skerritt's a good presence. But here, I just don't get what his character is. I was able to get Johnny on the page, but here, I just do not click with Tom Skerritt's performance as Johnny. I don't think it comes off very effortless.
I mean, he's a writer who's going to save the day because Stephen King loves writers who save the day. Like, what more is there to get? Like, this is such an obvious King character to me.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. I mean, he's a different style of writer than Stephen King. He's not a horror writer from Maine, anyway. But he is someone whose literary career is based on the war correspondence that he wrote in Vietnam. So he's a Nam veteran, and they're going to try to tie that to the Tack mythology and do that stuff at the end. I would say if you had to pick a main character, he's the star. I guess Tom Skerritt is the biggest name for many of the movies you've already listed. And yeah, he is the one that's blowing in here about 20 minutes, literally touring America looking for book ideas, a celebrity author that just needed to pee on a cactus and gets arrested.
And this is Intragian's standout scene, as I mentioned before. And yeah, he beats up Johnny, gets him to jail, and then, as you say, Intragian, he's starting to bleed from his face. He's really breaking down that body pretty quickly. He sneezed in the car with Johnny in the backseat, and like bloody phlegm went everywhere.
Right. I am curious about this. Is it all CGI, or did they actually hire animal trainers for like these moments where the dogs are lining up the highway?
No, that is CGI composite. Like, it is so bad looking. Just cracked up out loud at that shot.
It is real dogs.
Yes.
Yeah, composites, though.
Digitally duplicated and colored.
Yeah. There are some scenes, like a wolf comes out and gives a stare down, and later, it's supposed to be creepy, but there's like 4 hounds by a garbage can with 4 vultures behind them. I'm thinking that some of that was animal training.
Yeah, there's a lot of real animals, real cougar, real dogs on the set, and then there's also a lot of puppetry.
Yeah, puppetry. Okay.
Yeah, $12 million budget. CGI is in short supply. There is some in here, but it's not going to be everywhere.
And Arnie, you said this was the standout moment for Ron Perlman as he apprehends Johnny, because I agree, as he's doing some cop violence while singing Tomato Tomato, like, whew, it is peak of this film.
You guys are loving it more than I am. I guess I'm still hoping that they can capture what I liked about the book. Keep in mind, I read a book that I thought was pretty good and things could actually work. You're just wanting to see trash, and yeah, Ron Perlman is leaning into that.
I want to be entertained. I know this isn't going to be good, so give me Tomato Tomato.
I think I know by Tomato Tomato that it's not going to be good. It's commercial break number 2.
Yes.
And we've introduced all the characters by this point, and I realize, they don't have it.
Yeah, the moment my heart sank, like, we're kind of going victim by victim, but as soon as Steven Weber showed up and his acting and his lines and everything about him, like, that's when I'm like, oh, this is going to be crap.
Yeah, I've been doing a Wings rewatch lately, and don't ask me why. My wife loves that show, and it's amusing enough.
I watched it a lot in college, but that's because it was just on TV when I had come home from classes.
Never seen an episode.
But he's affable. I don't mind him as a person. I don't hate him. I blame him for some of his choices of roles to go after. And here, I mean, who could be as bad as him in The Shining? He's better here, but he's not a great presence either. He's just kind of stumbling through this part as Roadie Steve.
This is a tweak from the novel, right? Like, when I read it, I thought he was more like the agent. I don't know. Here, he literally schlepped gear for Aerosmith and the Rolling Stones, and he's playing it like that. And the reason why he stops for the hitchhiker is not only is she hot, but she's wearing a pink Dylan shirt. I guess it just feels a little more classic rock than the way I saw the character.
Oh, no, that's how he was portrayed in the book. I mean, she was wearing a shirt that he roadied for in the book, too, but he was more of a handler in the book. He was like to rein in Johnny.
Authors don't need roadies, right?
Well, when the author's a phony like Johnny and wants to motorcycle across the U.S. but still wants to bring all his stuff, you got to have someone drive that U-Haul.
And they say, and this is true, somebody to set up the sound systems where you're doing the speaking.
When you're doing readings in a Barnes & Noble,
you walk in and the person that runs the gym turns on the AV. You don't bring your own gear to talk to some readers. That's ridiculous.
As somebody who's given presentations at conventions and had to bring my own gear, it happens sometimes.
Okay, Tom Skerritt is going to Barnes & Noble, Borders, let's make some 2006 references. You don't even need a PA system.
Yes, I'm highlighting how ridiculous it is to think that this man is such a rock star in his head. It feels like egotism, right? That Johnny needs a roadie to carry all his stuff makes us not like Johnny. That's part of why I'm not clicking with Tom Skerritt, is that I just think you're so pretentious that you're traveling America to comb for ideas and having this guy schlep your shit around.
Well, and you talk about, again, I keep thinking I'm watching a 90s film and having to keep reminding myself it's 2006. Steven Weber's character, Steve, all of his reference, I know Aerosmith, they're still playing shows, and Dylan, whatever, but I associate those with 60s, 70s. He feels like he's 90s grunge the way he's dressed up. This does not feel 2006.
He's blaring Velvet Revolver, if you remember that group. It was Guns N' Roses and Stone Temple Pilots, the supergroup.
Yeah, I love that album, actually. I thought it was better than Chinese Democracy.
I mean, what is it?
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to stop you. I mean, Johnny's blasting Talking Heads. I will just say that they're going to musical references. It's not just all original score here. They have pop songs, I guess is what I'll call it, to pepper in here.
They had some budget left over and were able to pay the licensing fees.
Yeah, that surprised me, frankly. I wasn't expecting a contemporary rock song from 2006 in a 2006 TV movie.
I do like Kelly Overton's performance in this as Cynthia. It's a very minor role. And again, she has such unenviable lines. I will say it once again as "Don't call me cookie, I won't call you cake."
Who has ever said that in real life?
When have you ever been called cake?
Never!
How does that happen?
I mean, we have a character named Pie in this. I guess in this universe, people are called Pie and Cake.
Yeah, but yes, she is sort of the one to pop the balloon on the pretensions of Johnny, that she looks at it as like, okay, this old 60s dude is riding around on a motorcycle and, she doesn't know who he is. She reads Dean Koontz.
Which is a huge rivalry, by the way. In my Stephen King Facebook group, they hate Koontz. It is a huge thing that anyone who reads Dean Koontz is going to be ostracized in that group.
But I don't think Stephen King feels that way. I mean, I think that he got along with him just fine. I don't think he fomented any real hostility towards other horror writers.
I mean, he wrote this line. You think this is playful ribbing?
Yeah, no, I think the ribbing is not on Dean Koontz. The ribbing is on pretentious Norman Mailer types. That's who Johnny really is. He's not Stephen King. He's the kind of writer that gets respect. The one that Stephen King would never be compared with. And so that he's going to die and get his comeuppance and be called a fraud that didn't even live through the war horrors the way he reported it. I think that this is King getting revenge on a certain type of celebrated author. But you mentioned it already. Let's talk about it. David. Whoa. If I didn't love the way that Danny and Toby played out in The Shining, this magic moment where instead of Toby, he's got a sister that comes back from the dead, the one on the stairs. She's going to, appear jumping rope or something and deliver to him a bar of glowing Irish Spring so that he can lather up his almost naked body and squeeze through the jail bars.
Excuse me, that is not Irish Spring. You've never used Irish Spring, I guess. This thing looks like green Jell-O. Irish Spring is creamy colored.
I see this glowing green thing. I'm like, oh, it's like a magic rock. What is going on? And then David's like, everyone turn around. Dad, turn around. I got a strip. I'm like, what's going on here?
What the hell?
And then I'm like, oh, that's soap? Don't drop the soap in prison as he gets naked? What is really? And yeah, he's going to soap himself up to get through the prison bars. This is nuts.
Yeah, you don't do this.
No!
Yeah, it was in the book and it was dumb there, but you know you can't visualize that without people laughing.
You have Pi just magically open the cell for him.
All right, this is one of my problems in this movie, though, is in this movie, Pi opening the cell for him seems like it would happen. In the book, God speaks to David, we think, but David is God's agent, and David has to act. Now, the fact that he can't leave his underwear on in the book is really weird, because underwear is not going to make or break you slipping through those bars. I don't know how slippery your cock has to be to get through some prison bars, but I wouldn't think that slippery.
It's his big-ass head that can't fit. That's the miracle.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's so distracting how for so much of this film, you could see the dried soaps come on his head. I didn't even see him lather his head up when he got out of those bars.
And that's a bad optical effect when his too big head slips through the bars. That is, you can tell, just some work being done.
I mean, not enough work, in my opinion. This character is just problematic. And King does this. I mean, keep in mind, The Stand had the literal hand of God come down and say, over, by the end of it. Like, he, rather than write endings where characters actually do the work themselves, sometimes he can just deus ex machina it. And David feels like another one in those lines. Now, it's going to be disguised as a discussion about faith. We'll see if there's any merit to the words that he's saying, but we get this flashback about how he's deluded into thinking he can save people's life because a drunk driver, I mean, it's not funny when drunk drivers run over kids, but the way that Mick Garris films this scene of the kid going flying across, hitting that house and leaving that blood splat, this is some slapstick comedy.
Throw a couple more bucks. You got some extra budget here, Garris. Like the way he flies off that pike, cracking up.
It's pretty bad, and the watermelon-like splat of blood that's left against the wall. This is a huge thing in the book. The kid went into a coma, he was expected to die, he was brain dead, and David prayed, and it does seem miraculous that this boy came back from the brink of death. Here, I just think he wasn't injured all that badly, and David's praying.
Right. He was wearing his helmet. That's why he's okay.
And when we're finding the story out, Ellen, his mom, hasn't been taken yet, and I love, like, how angry she's getting. Like, why didn't you pray for your sister?
That's so hilarious. Here's a kid saying, I have faith and I want to believe, and she's screaming, well, your sister's dead, so you're to nothing. I mean, again, we're glad that she's going to be converted into the next thing. This is going to be a shocker for people, because I think Ron Perlman, you might show up for him, but he is leaving the movie to jump into this housewife.
To its detriment.
Yeah, this actress has no name recognition. She does nothing cool physically and as tack. Why make this choice?
She's 5'1", by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the whole gist was going to be, because we see Perlman, whenever he's getting evil and threatening people, like his skin starts breaking up. So I thought, oh, he's got to take bodies to wherever, this pit, to sacrifice to get his flesh back or whatever. And so I thought that was going to be the thing, because yes, he is imposing. There ain't nothing imposing about Ellen. She never even grows. Like, we're told Perlman's character grew a few inches. Like,
yes.
If they would have used some really bad effects to like bulk her up, that would have been great.
They padded her body and tried to make it look bigger.
Only when they had to throw her off a car.
And they also, yes, at times used a slightly taller stunt double to try to make her look more imposing. But you say this is when Ron Perlman walks out. He walked out of the commentary, too. He was doing the commentary with Mick Garris and is like, well, my character's no longer in this, so I'm no longer in this. And I wondered if I could do this for our show. Can I just check out at this point? Because I'll be 100% honest. I waited maybe 10 minutes after Ron Perlman left the movie.
That's a dangerous precedent to set. Yeah, we'll be walking out of a lot of shows.
Yeah, right.
I turned it off again in about the same spot where I turned off the network movie. I was so bored by this. I was bored when Ron Perlman was in it, but at least he was a spark. And then when he leaves this movie, all life left this movie, I had to come back the next day. Now, it's not as bad as you with Face Off, Stuart, where you had to watch that in like 5-minute chunks over the course of a day. But I had to treat this like a TV miniseries, come back the next day because I needed a breather. This thing was bad.
It's only, we say 3 hours, but it's really like just over 2 hours without commercials.
Yeah, 2 hours, 10 minutes.
So you're saying you had to take a break?
Yeah, I had to take a break and come back the next day. And I was wondering, can I just like check out of the podcast or do I have to come back and finish the movie?
You're the Stephen King fan. You are the one out of all of us most inclined to follow this. And you really like the book. And you're saying this movie has nothing for you.
That is exactly what I'm saying, and I knew it at this moment. I knew it was a strong not recommend. Now the just has to endure the ending.
You're not having any Brown Arrow fun? Because I definitely think, like, when we see Red Rum Dog appear on the wall as some kind of shining homage, but it literally becomes murdering God. I mean, oh my God. There is some funny here. I hear what you're saying. I agree this movie is ugly and drab. I actually had a problem with it with Ron Perlman in my face so much. It was unpleasant. But yeah, there is comedy throughout. There is Brown Arrow to be had.
Yeah, maybe because I'm not the King fan. I'm having a lot of fun with this. More fun than I expected to have. Yeah, you say Brown Arrow. There's definitely Brown Arrow or a Green Irish Spring Bar soap at times. But I agree. Like, when Perlman leaves, a lot of that campy fun that I've been having goes along as well.
That's what I'm really asking. I keep making a travesty and I'll laugh. But if you were trying to make a good movie, wouldn't it be a logical choice not to do the body hopping? What do they really get out of the body hopping? You can have Ron Perlman falling apart, but Tack is in him for the whole time, maybe until the end. Maybe he's going to jump body to somebody else. But you don't give it to the suburban mom. That just hurts your film.
Or you recast the suburban mom maybe with somebody who could be more imposing. But this is what happens when you have Stephen King adapting Stephen King is there's not a whole lot of adaptation. There's just a little abridgment. But B, I think it's important that Tack can transfer bodies because then it's harder than just killing one person.
It's only important if they ever do anything with it, which they don't. Just have it that Tack is renewing his body by sacrificing others, but it's always Ron Perlman. That's always just giving him more strength as he kills more people.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that you change the fact that it can jump bodies. I'm just saying you don't leave Ron Perlman. You need a Pennywise. You need the Tim Curry to keep this thing going. Because let's face it, that It miniseries is not very good, but people love it because Tim Curry. And if you had Ron Perlman owning this movie, it might help drag it over the line for some people. Not me. I'm hearing you guys saying, I love Ron Perlman, I love Ron Perlman. If this had been a Ron Perlman horror movie, it might have more love and nostalgia now.
Yeah, he was the best part of this movie. He left. I left. I mean, the rest of these performers give nothing that I want.
Yeah, I don't like this cast. And you know what? God knows we've savaged Steven Weber probably more than he deserves.
He deserves it.
He dared to try and do Nicholson after that definitive Shining, and it did not work out for him. He is not a problem here. If anything, he's affable and likable, and maybe one of the most likable people in this cast as he's going along, sort of like finding out what happened to his boss, stopping and finding the RV, stopping at the mine. They have a moment that should mean more than it does, that they come to one of those cantas, those carved relics, and almost, it's on network TV, so they're not going to get too skeevy, but
they make you orgasm those relics, like Cynthia orgasms.
Lecherous thoughts go into their head. Yeah, evil thoughts. You could have had fun with that. I feel like that idea goes away as well.
I mean, look, is this Jack Torrance, Steven Weber? No, this is definitely a better performance, but I will say too much is given to him. Yeah, all this stuff, looking for his boss, going to all these different locations. Ultimately, whether this is a Brown or Red Arrow is how long this is going to drag out. And this part, it just feels so dragged out as they wander around town. Like that relic, if that was going to be important, great, but it never adds up to anything.
They do have one Brown Arrow moment in the supermarket. I gotta say, yes, a lot of their wanderings aren't particularly funny, but when they get to the co-op and it's crawling with CGI snakes and fake spiders and scorpions and all of that. The slot machine. For some reason, there's a slot machine in the grocery store.
That goes all shining on him and bleeds.
And then it decides to be the shining elevator and spit out blood. It's hysterical.
That pisses me off. That honestly pisses me off. I was still on my first part of viewing when that happened. And it was part of what really turns me against this.
This is what made you mad?
Here's the thing. Tack is not Pennywise. Tack tack is not everywhere. Tack is in Ellen.
I don't know what tack is.
And so that you could have red rum show up on the wall and that you can have this thing spit blood. And this was Stephen King rewrite later on. He just called Mick Garris and said, I want you to somewhere in this movie put a slot machine that spits blood. I mean,
why not the grocery store?
It does not make any sense that Tack has this power, that Tack would be able to do this. And it truthfully pisses me off because this movie has no rules. In the book, there were rules. Also in the book, there were well-defined characters, and it is an art form to take 6 characters or 7 characters and in 2 hours flesh them out and make us care about them. You mentioned Pulp Fiction, Stuart. There's a great example of a movie that can make you care about a large number of characters in a short amount of time. Here, I just feel like Mick Garris needed more time with these characters to make me give a damn and to differentiate them and to give them their own plots and their own points, because as it is, there's just a lot of people there, but I dare not even call them characters.
Well, here's the thing, because we haven't attacked Mick Garris enough, I really want to cite his biggest flaw. And that's a hard thing to define, right? What's the worst thing that he does? He's terrible with actors. Yes, his movies look crappy, and yes, I think he is simplistic in the way that he uses fisheye lenses to make things look exaggerated and scary. But yes, you can give him any actor, and they'll give a really unconvincing performance. You have Charles Durning, Oscar winner in this jail cell, and he's terrible. It doesn't matter who you give this guy, he will make them flat and dramatically unbelievable, and you won't like them. And that's true of The Stand, that's true of Sleepwalkers, that's true of all of them. Shining, it's just Mick Garris.
I still liked some of the characters in The Stand. Rob Lowe and Ray Walston.
Okay, I recognize that you and many people have some nostalgia for that. I don't believe that that is a dramatically credible version of The Stand. I think that you could have and should have made that better than it was, but the goodwill is from the actors themselves. Hey, I love Christopher Lloyd in Quicksilver Highway, despite Mick Garris directing that. But again, that's just because actors bring a certain quality that can't be reduced by bad directing. But he's a bad director of actors. That's what I want to stress, is that dramatically, there's no moment in this movie or any of his movies where you feel people give a good dramatic reading.
And these are not the caliber of actors. I mean, one was Oscar nominated, but yeah, sometimes an actor just like they bring something here. I feel like, yeah, Steven Weber, he's a TV actor. He's doing what Steven Weber could do without better direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Come on, we are 7 years beyond The Sixth Sense. You can find better kid actors than this. I mean, the real detriment, and Arnie, I heard you say it was the worst thing, this David stuff. Like, when he slips out of the bars and goes and talks to his sister and puts a blanket over her dead body, these are dramatically hollow moments. You're not going to cry. You're not going to be moved. This should be, on the page, horrific to think I'm looking at my dead sibling and, you know, having to grab a gun and go shoot a dog. All of these things are things that usually upset audiences, and they come off as farce, in part because of this actor, this child actor.
Yeah, he's terrible. He gives nothing, and he has the key role here. If you cast one person well, it has to be the role of David. And Mick Garris went on and on about how good this kid was and how he was really able to produce tears during one of the scenes and things like that. And I'm like, are you watching the same movie I'm watching, Mick?
Look, I like to watch a lot of Christian cinema for Brown Arrow reasons. When he's like sitting there praying, deliver me like Daniel from the lion. Like, I'm cracking up because I'm like, it is on that level of like, here's a bunch of amateurs that just want to promote a message and no one knows the craft of acting.
This looks no different than the Kirk Cameron Left Behind movies. I agree with you. And I think King has a more nuanced and complicated idea about faith. You want an actor that can dramatically give those speeches. You do not want it to turn into the sideshow. That, again, the dog jumping at him, it was a commercial break tease. Did the dog kill him or not? And he walks around for the rest of the movie with the bloody Cleveland Indians shirt on. I just, oof. Yeah, David's a problem, a big problem that grows. As Ron Perlman disappears, the problem of him grows.
And I just wish that his devotion to God and his praying and his crisis of faith that he had in the book were better depicted. They just are so glossed over here. So much of the book is about faith and belief, and it's one of the themes that really attracted me. And here, I mean, if you're going to give every character the short shrift, you have to give David his moments. You have to give more than just the brief flashback of a friend's bicycle helmet cracking in half. You need a lot of attention paid to this character, and instead it almost feels like mocking, just because Stephen King often uses his religious characters as points of humor. I mean, think back to the lady in The Mist, you know, the mother in Carrie. They're always evil. And so here, with David trying to be a good religious person, sell me that, and they don't.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because you read the book, because my interpretation of David in this film is extremely faithful, never questions God until the last 10 seconds of the movie, and then he's like, oh, maybe God is a bastard. Does he struggle with that faith? That would have been a much more interesting story.
I mean, again, you don't want the mom to say it the way that she did, but the idea is, if God is good, how could he do that to Pi? How could he kill a little girl and savagely leave her corpse just laying there for all to see on that staircase if it actually looks scary, which it doesn't? Yes. Why did God save your friend and not her? Those ironies are throughout the book, and I think what I hear the resolution be is that God is good and bad. God is kind and cruel.
He's everything.
And yes, that's what everything means. It means accepting the idea of the Old Testament God, the one that is wrathful, the one that is punishing. You serve a God who, I heard the words, is no better than tack.
Yeah, so much of this movie, I'm like, oh, this really does feel like a Kirk Cameron production. Like, we got to just have faith. And when it does start to turn towards the end, I'm like, oh, this is actually interesting.
Yes.
We're delving into this stuff, but it's so badly formed and written, it falls flat.
It's too bad. I agree, because I think most people would look at this and just say, oh, this is just some silly Christian hand-wavy stuff. No, actually,
that's how I felt for most of it.
It's someone wrestling with that and trying to actually find how you could devote yourself to a God of cruelty. And that's interesting. I mean, I always find stories about people who wrestle with their faith as being very compelling. Even if it's not my faith, I think that that can be a compelling story, but nothing here dramatically. I want to again and forever underline, Mick Garris doesn't have it in him to do a dramatic work like that. You need a Scorsese. Mick Garris can put ghoul makeup on something and put a fisheye lens on the camera and go big, but he cannot explore complicated ideas about faith.
I'm just baffled. So yeah, David shoots the dog. Everyone gets out. They're going to meet up with Steve and Cynthia, and they hide out in this theater.
Yeah, and I mean, why don't they leave? I mean, I wondered if this was where the 5 minutes were. Did they have a scene explaining why they couldn't get out? Because in the book, there's like all these swarms of animals that I know that they can't pull off on this budget.
They talk about a sandstorm. They say, we have to get out of the storm. One line.
I thought it was because Cynthia and Steve were having too much fun making shadow puppets on the screen. Like, I don't know why this scene's in there.
Yeah, I mean, really, why don't you leave? Everyone's together, you're in an operating vehicle, and you go to a movie theater, it's crazy town. Like, why you can't drive through sand is the explanation. Even though it's filled with monsters and killers and all of that, you're going to stay.
That is what we are told in this show. Yeah, it's no sense.
Yeah, because I really thought I missed it. I really thought the 5 minutes were the reasons why they're suddenly at the movie theater. Charles Durning is cracking a 40 and we're all having a good time. Shadow puppets, as you say. Baffling. This is where we get the Charles Durning moment. That Tom largely has just been the old guy in the other cell, and now we find out he was a local, a veterinarian, someone that knew Collie, the Ron Perlman character, to be kind, and can fill in a little bit here about how it got turned, how he became road raged and run over people.
I'm sorry, he's playing this character named Tom, who's a bit of a local historian, really takes pride in that. And I watched the opening credits. I saw a lot of Chinese immigrants. I'm like, oh, this is going to be about some Chinese curse because we abused them as they built the railroads. And when he's like, yeah, those Californians really treated the Chinese bad, but we loved them. We all got along. I'm like, you got bad history. And my theory will be proved out later, but I'm like, don't try to tell me that like in Nevada, they were super kind to the Chinese immigrants, helping them in the mine.
Yeah, that seems like a an obvious fanciful idea of this town. And again, this town is obviously being punished, right? It did something wrong to have this be put upon them. We, I think, are to look at that guy as misguided and maybe just a drunk that doesn't know his own story. But yes, they're surrounded by murals of happy Chinese working side by side with the whites. And what's the real story? This is where Stephen King, the screenwriter, does a real shortcut. He just decides that there's a magic film splicer somewhere.
God made a silent film.
Yeah, we can watch the real movie.
Yeah, Mick Garris' idea here. So can't blame King for it. But again, it bothers me because what are the powers going on here? Is there any limit? Are there any rules to the powers that God, I guess, is going to show David the real history of tack?
Yeah, God is unlimited power.
He is all powerful, Artie, so he could do whatever.
This is not Tack doing this. That would be one thing.
Okay, so it's God giving a vision through a film editing machine, through a splicer.
With full soundtrack?
Yeah, a scratchy, sepia tone, black and white, silent movie that, yes, basically fill in the blank here. There was a thriving mining town and 100 Chinese miners were down there being whipped, being mistreated, nothing like what Charles Durning was claiming the town was like to them. And they stumble upon a passageway, I don't know what you want to call it, a gateway to another dimension, Piramo. This is where Tack suddenly infects, well, we just see two brothers that actually get out of the mine and probably cause the cave-in. This is what doesn't make any sense. It's the cave-in that traps Tack in there.
But we saw that CGI smoke get out before the explosion.
Yeah, but the people possessed by Tack, they're actually outside. They made it outside and they want to kill the town. And even as they're being strung up in nooses, some kind of lizard head is popping out of his mouth and saying, I'm going to get you.
But I guess they ran out of bodies, and that's why Tack went away until they reopened the mine?
That's what I take it as, is Tack is really in the bottom of the mine, and he can possess, but he needs physical proximity. And if the body dies, then that embodiment of Tack dies. So since they hung this Chinese miner, then Tack was not able to transfer to another body until they again opened the mine.
Is this a racially insensitive way of trying to stand up for Chinese immigrants? Like, is Tack a white guy's interpretation of a sympathetic Chinese god that will get revenge on the way we treated them for the railroad and such?
I think it would have worked better if the Chinese rightfully, again, did some kind of curse or something. Like, this was the way the sins of the past was still haunting, sorry to get all CRT, but it's haunting modern day America. Like, that would feel a little bit better. This feels totally unrelated to the Chinese immigrants. It could have been Mexicans. It could have been other whites. It could have been anyone digging in that mine.
Well, but then they try to do this, and this is why I call it racially insensitive. Because we have the Vietnam War story, they're trying to say that what happened to the Chinese is the same thing as the Vietnamese. You know, they do try to find an equivalent in the modern day, specifically with Johnny's backstory.
Yeah, I was just wondering, do they know that Vietnamese and Chinese are different?
Right, that's what I mean about Stephen King. Sometimes in trying to speak for the minority voice ends up going to some bad stereotypes and just confusions. And yes, Vietnamese are not Chinese, and they don't go around going tack, 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 tack. I mean, that's insensitive.
But I mean, that's Tack the demon, not the Chinese.
This is what I'm trying to say, Arnie. Is Tack the demon just his white man's interpretation of what Chinese sounds like?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. I mean, it would be doing him a favor to say that that was not his intent. But it feels, as we move towards this climax, that this is a Chinese/Asian god that is mad at the way Asian people were treated in America by this small town, and specifically wants to get these white people for that past crime.
And I would have liked it more if it was a Chinese god. This feels totally separate from all of that. So the whole fact about how the Chinese immigrants were treated is not actually relevant.
Yeah, it muddies the waters. And, I mean, I don't even really know, I know about the railroad, but, mining? I don't know. That's, perhaps. The Chinese were oppressed and misused, as were many minorities, and I don't know that this is the right vehicle to speak to that. It feels like a ripoff of it. In the end, it just feels like he wanted to have some subterranean that had watched this town and wanted to now bring justice upon it. And because Johnny was a Vietnam vet who has made a lot of money and become acclaimed as this great writer, chronicler of that war, they're going to have to go and expose him. I don't know whether it's God or Tack that has that moment of showing the true story in the movie theater. That ultimately, this is a guy who ran from a bomb and didn't help other people and probably deserves a death.
The way I interpret that scene is that Tack was really there back then.
Yes.
Which I hate. And that's how Mick Garris then confirmed it in the commentary, is Tack was really in Vietnam. But how was Tack in Vietnam if Tack was buried in the mine? I mean, it makes no sense. And again, Tack is not Pennywise. Tack knew that Johnny would eventually come to desperation on a motorcycle.
Or, here's the way to interpret it, it's the devil, right? The devil is everywhere, just as God is everywhere. Tack is not at the bottom of some mine. Tack is anywhere where human beings are tempted to do the wrong thing. Or in Asia. Again, I can't get over the Asian confusion that seems to be happening.
Yeah, I took Johnny's movie as a message from God because there's been this whole back and forth between him and David. Guys, we didn't even talk about when David fed the 5,000 with 5 cans of sardines straight out of the Bible like he's Jesus Christ. What a great scene.
I know.
Very subtle commentary. But yeah, Johnny's been the one, like, I don't know about this whole God thing. And this is like his moment. I felt like God like threw the Tack thing in there to help draw the connections. Like that same evil, yeah, whatever Tack is that caused that suicide bomb, which again, we're like invading a country. Like, okay, I don't want to get in those messy politics, but he was trying to draw some line and help Johnny come to that realization because this is Johnny's religious moment.
And that God works through evil, that God condones Tack to be everywhere so that it can test your free will and see if you're going to serve.
Yeah, because if Johnny didn't let all those people in that restaurant get suicide bombed, like he wouldn't have this change of heart. He wouldn't have had his career. It all comes down to what are the stakes here? Like, oh, you're going to save Desperation where everyone's already dead. God had to bring this all about to stop this?
Yeah, it should just be said, in the meantime, Ellen, or Tack, who's jumped into the housewife, has learned where they're all at and decides the best way to attack them is to get a mountain lion to jump through the window of a bathroom and bite Charles Durning on the neck. That was some comedy.
He takes forever to die, too. I figured he was dead right away, and then later Mary's going to go back to him, and he's still, like, breathing, and then finally dies. I guess he had to make it past that commercial break. Everyone was wondering, is he going to live, as they sat through those Burger King commercials.
Yeah, this is something else that made much more sense on the page. He had used animals a lot more on the page, because guess what? It's cheap to do it on the page, and it's expensive to do it in the movie.
Yeah. They cut a character. It was a female scientist that was working with the mine that had also was found hiding in the supermarket, and she ended up getting possessed, and she tried to kill David. There's a big change from the novel's storyline. The elimination of her, I think, is it. That while this was all going on, she was trying to find David in that projection room as he was having his visions or whatever and kill him. But during all of this, Tack has decided, I need a new body, and I'm going to go with Mary because convenience, because she's the one attending to Charles Durning bleeding out of the neck where everyone else is off eating sardines or doing something else.
He just keeps grabbing weak women to possess. Look for another Ron Perlman.
I don't know that this is increasing our fear that Mary is grabbed, but it is the reason why Johnny is encouraged to stay with the group and not run away, because Johnny is trying to not heed the call.
It's supposed to increase your fear for Mary, but not increase your fear of Tack.
Yeah, that seems like a miscalculation. Again, you want people to be intimidated by Tack, and it seems like it's making worse and worse choices and not ending up in things that are going to scare us. You know, it can be lots of different things too. It stayed with the clown because it knew the fucking clown scared people. And you don't go to the housewife. You don't go to tarantulas that you can then wad up because they don't want to bite you and mar your body. So like none of these animals can hurt you. It's a way of taking away the fear factor from your climax. Let's go save Mary, who doesn't need saving because all she needs to do is stomp on a bunch of snakes and climb out of the back of a washing machine vent.
Yeah, because she's next in line so the animals won't actually hurt her. Wow, scary.
Yeah. Again, dumb move. Like, we need to rescue Mary. She's in trouble. Okay. We don't need to rescue Mary because she can punch Ellen and half her face falls off. And when she tries to break into the car, her arms fall off. I mean, it's a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah, no, the effects here, I like the jaw part. I'm like, oh, that looks pretty good for this TV thing. But yeah, when her arm comes off and it's obviously someone just with their arm like tucked into their shirt like we would do as kids when we needed a severed arm in a movie, like, ooh, it's bad.
What do you want, a method actor to cut their arm off? Of course they're going to shove it under their shirt.
I think you know what I'm saying.
I know, I'm being facetious.
Plenty of films with practical effects that could pull this off.
Yes, it's about camera angles. It's about skill of filmmaking so that it's not so obvious.
I mean, the frame is barely lit and it still looks awful.
And Pi is appearing to Mary to get her out because she couldn't have figured out how to get out of the hole in the washing machine by herself. We have Pi now guiding everyone. This is the trap of The Stand, right? This is what we didn't like about The Stand was you had these two armies and then they're just sitting around and waiting for a mystical voice to tell them what to do and, self-sacrifice.
You know what I didn't like about The Stand is that by the time The Stand finally happened and the climax came, Randall Flagg had lost his power. And it was never quite sure why, and Stephen King says evil burns itself out. But Flagg was losing control of Vegas, and he was losing control of his powers. It was falling away. And so when they went up against the villain, it just wasn't as menacing of a villain. Stephen King had undermined that villain. And I feel like on the page and in the screenplay, Stephen King has undermined Tack here because, as you mentioned, it's a one-armed woman who then has to transfer her essence into, in the book at least it's an eagle, but you can't find eagles in the United States. So we grab a vulture and Tack transfers itself into a bird. Guess what? A bird is not as scary as Ron Perlman on a Rage.
Yeah, they're trading down. And I want to point out that we haven't even mentioned Matt Frewer is in this movie. Max Headroom, Trash Can Man.
Biggest disappointment. He does nothing crazy.
He has been really silent. He has been underplaying, which is not something I associate with that actor, but he has downplayed everything and let the other actors take it. And his one big moment here is when that buzzard flies in and bites into his neck and he just drops dead. That's the end of Matt Frewer in this. Hey, do you want to take this part where your buzzard flies in and pecks your face off? Okay, that's you, Matt.
According to Mick Garris, this is Matt Frewer showing his range. And while he's associated with comedic, he can do dramatic.
Oh, he's saying this is dramatic. Oh.
Well, no, playing the father of the God Boy was dramatic.
Okay. I just figured if it's a Stephen King TV adaptation directed by Mick Garris, Matt Frewer has something in his contract where he is given first opportunity to accept a role.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But it'd make a better role than this. You'd want a meatier part than this. That he was just the dad in the background who's dead. And what's wrong with David? Okay? Your sister's dead, your mom's dead, your father's dead, and this actor is giving nothing. It's just we're just got to do what God wants us to. It's just the part of the plan. Don't we need a real kid that really is grieving the loss of his family here?
Yes, absolutely. David is the worst cast role because he's so central and does so little.
We need a lot of real things at this point, Stuart. Real actors, real directors, real writers, real special effects. But yeah, this kid is never going to sell me on this faith crisis or this faith journey.
I just want to point out, we're at the end, and everyone in his family is dead, and he's still playing it low-key. Is that because he's so affirmed in his faith that everything will be fine? Or that he thinks he's going to kill himself, and then it's Tom Skerritt that tricks him into not doing it? I didn't understand what happened here. There's a moment, they're all walking up to the mine, and Johnny fake falls and grabs something out of his pocket. It's the bullet.
He grabs that shotgun shell at the beginning. I guess this is why you had to have Mary grab that shotgun and try to shoot Collie, so that other shell could fall out and David is seen grabbing it. And this is where Tom Skerritt's character gets it.
And this made so much more sense in the book because God had stopped talking to David, and David was having a crisis of faith and believed that if his whole family died, he needed to sacrifice himself to stop Tack. And this is where David had caused Johnny to have what they call a God bomb. They call it that in the movie as well as the book. And Johnny sees that he has to sacrifice himself, which makes sense because he, did let those people die in Vietnam.
He should have blown up back in Nam. come?
Well, the usual way you redeem a character who's done wrong is through their death and self-sacrifice, so they're going with that trope here. But yeah, it works so well on the page, and it's so abridged in this movie as to not make any sense. If I hadn't read the book, I'd be so confused.
Yeah, I read the book. I'm still confused that Tom Skerritt's just sort of walking in alone, like comes to an altar, falls down a flaming pit.
He puts a motorcycle helmet on so the smoke can't possess him.
Yeah, the visor. Using the visor shield to prevent the tack smoke.
It can't just go underneath. It's not like it encases his head like an astronaut helmet.
No, it's going to hit that glass and be like, oh, damn it.
But he put on that helmet so he could fall down the hole and not get killed, I guess.
Yeah, this is bad. This is bad. Did they take the ammonium nitrate? I'm confused.
Yeah, they took it from the mining shack nearby.
But I'm not seeing him carry any of it.
It's around his neck.
He's got it over his shoulder. It's really badly lit, but he does have it.
Okay. I figured that he must be carrying a lot of the explosives, but it wasn't clear how or why.
I will swear there are some scenes, they probably didn't have a continuity director. I don't think he had them because every once in a while I'm like, wait, where did the dynamite go?
Okay. All right. And again, I'm missing 5 minutes that you guys saw, so maybe there's stuff I missed.
Maybe we got the bonus footage of the dynamite sacks, yeah.
Yeah, could have been its own storyline in a Stephen King book. But yeah, the point is, this guy's going to go in there, blow it sky high, and we kind of have a moment of reflection where is Tack dissipating in the clouds, or did he escape? And will he stalk these people in another sequel?
Even before that happens, as Tom Skerritt's getting ready to blow Tack up, I gotta say, Tack, you're not intimidating based on your shit talk that's going on during this whole scene.
Yeah, I command you to stop. I hate critics. That's like a Schwarzenegger line.
Yeah, that one was really a groaner.
But yeah, they see Tack in the cloud, but he just blows away, I guess. I don't know, those particles. Maybe he's going to go infect more towns.
Again, if this were a TV miniseries, it might be fun to have seen the Regulators the next night. Same cast, dealing with Tack in a different way. Maybe that's what it's meant to imply, that in this reality, Tack is done, but the fight goes on. And so everyone's going to leave together in the same truck, but they stop by Mary's car, not to have her get in her own vehicle, but to find a magical school album that...
Yearbook!
I don't even know what they were going for.
No, in the book, it's different and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But in this movie...
It makes sense here?
It's even worse that you see Pi and Johnny together in David's school yearbook. It is nonsense. I guess it's supposed to mean God has taken them both into heaven?
Yes, I get that.
Yeah, they have their Bible scripture there, God is love, and I take it as this actor playing David that this is a disappointment, and I get it. Like, you've gone through all this, and you get a yearbook?
Right. Like, I want my real school yearbook. Like, I want to see the science project and everything. Instead, I got this writer I never liked, and my dead sister grinning at me. Bizarre. Yeah, I get the note that they might have wanted to end on, but this is sheer Brown Arrow comedy.
But is it Brown Arrow enough for you to recommend people watch this? Jacob Stewart, can you recommend Desperation? Jacob.
If Steven Weber and Matt Frewer in a Stephen King TV adaptation directed by Mick Garris is the team God has put together to entertain yourself on a Saturday night, then you are right to question God's wisdom and benevolence. I totally understand that. The thing is, I was having my own faith crisis during this because do I recommend this? Because, yeah, it's not Green Arrow, that's for sure. But is this a Brown Arrow, which is still green on the website? It's still a recommend.
Right.
And there's a lot of fun here, a lot of Brown Arrow fun. Ron Perlman's camping it up, a lot of just really crazy lines, the feeding of the 5,000 with 5 cans of sardines, like, woo!
You're right. The soap!
A lot of laughs. The soap, like that, wow, just so much. But here's the problem. This is a 2-hour and 10-minute movie. And yeah, if this was 90 minutes, 100 minutes, easily. Cut out a lot of the stuff with Cynthia and Steve wandering around Desperation. Cut out about half of the movie theater stuff. That's when this really lags. gags. And look, you dilute your fun. You diluted the fun I was having here because there's a lot of great moments. So, like, I'm not going to hate on this. Like, for Stephen King TV film, this is one of the better ones because it is, so ridiculous. It is a lot of brown arrows, but not enough to outweigh the red. It's going to get a weak not recommend for me because it just goes on too long. Trim it down, do a fan 90-minute cut, and it will be gold, but not recommend.
Stuart?
Yeah, I won't call him desperate, but King clearly is recycling many time-worn themes and scenarios here and on another measly TV budget, which gives the whole experience this incredibly retro, like, it's 2006, but it sure looks like 1994 The Stand miniseries to me. Again, in the imagery, the post-apocalyptic roads leading to a town full of corpses, the devil figure that can take the form of a bird and manipulates people to do evil, the hokey special effects, and even hokier faith talk that insists you just get to a climax by doing whatever God or Stephen King asks. I didn't recommend that Stand, but I did get why it was a sensation back on TV during its original airing. And the problem is, for Desperation, time has moved on. We are now in a different era, and Mick Garris, you needed to bring new skills. You needed to do new things. And he is still relying on the same lousy look, visual stylings. He is still, using that fisheye lens, the bad latex, the bad acting. I mean, again, I cannot forgive him for this child performance here, and really for all of the cast. You don't like these people, and I think that's really the problem. In the end, people still go back to It. They go back to The Stand. They don't go back to The Shining. Not his Shining, but they go back for the ones that have memorable performances and moments. Tim Curry helps you put up with a lot of bullshit, but Tack just sucks, and that's the problem. He doesn't stay in the right body, and he just gets worse and worse as this thing goes on. And so, I'm kind of like Jacob. You could mine this thing for some brown arrows, but in the end, there's not enough here for you to feel like it's a gold mine of comedy. It's a not recommend, but I kind of put it, when thinking about the Mick Garris TV movies, I would say it's not as funny as Quicksilver Highway, but a little bit better than Sleepwalkers.
Sleepwalkers could almost be a brown arrow for me. It might have been. I can't remember if I went so bad it's good on that one. But this one, I think there's one thing we really left out in this review. When discussing this movie, we discussed the plot beats, but we didn't discuss the 10-minute talking scenes that go in between the plot beats. When Tom is telling the story of the Chinese miners, and not even telling it correctly, telling that they were happy, well-treated miners and things, that goes on for a long time. There's two different scenes where they're in the back of the Ryder truck or whatever fake brand it is, having discussions of what to do that go on for a long time. And a lot of those scenes focus on David, who, as we've all three pointed out, is not up to the task of carrying this movie the way he is needing to. This film drags tremendously. There's a reason why I got super bored, and it drags even when Ron Perlman's in it, because he walks off the screen and giving the people time to talk while in their jail cell. There's just way too much where not enough is going on. So you'd have to be pretty desperate to want to watch this, I think. I give it a strong not recommend and say it's in the bottom tier of the King we've covered, because I can't even find a lot to hold on to. I mean, throughout this podcast, I've listed my complaints. I agree with you, Stuart. Tack is too weak at the end to be a good villain, and these actors aren't given enough to do. There's not enough story there. Ralph Carver was pretty thin on the page and is nothing on the screen. I mean, I can't believe you're right. We didn't even talk about Matt Frewer, who I like in everything. I will always be a Matt Frewer fan, no matter what, but he keeps pushing me being a fan when I see him in stuff like this.
Generation X?
He's truly mind raped you.
Yeah, I was going to say, who can forget the mind raping in Generation X?
Yeah, this movie was really bad, and I can't recommend it.
Is it his worst? Is it worse than The Shining, which I think is Mick Garris's worst effort?
No, it's not worse than The Shining. If for no other reason than it's shorter than The Shining. And I don't have any great vision to compare this to. I don't have great performances of David that I could say, but see, Haley Joel Osment did David so much better than this David. I don't have that.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, this one, it's a bad one. Again, in listing the 79, it landed in number 55, whatever that means. But yeah, it's behind some of the straight-to-tape Children with Corn movies. That's where I would put this. But still having a few kernels of comedy. I think that's what saves it from being the very bottom.
Stuart, do you know what our next Stephen King adaptation is going to be?
Well, assuming that the James Wan 2 years in running Salem's Lot movie doesn't come out, or Netflix doesn't get their Talisman movie together, which I know they've been working on a while, it's something called Bag of Bones. See if this sounds familiar to you. A 650-page novel.
Yes, already stopped.
Directed by Mick Garris.
Oh, no.
Starring Matt Frewer.
Matt Frewer. 2-night TNT TV movie event. It's Pierce Brosnan as a New England writer who has writer's block and goes to a small town where he has spooky visions.
Haven't we already reviewed this like 17 times?
Don't call it Bag of Bones, call it Bag of Tricks. This is some recycling shit. I don't know. We'll get to it when I think something King comes back. Like we tied into the Pet Sematary prequel. We need to have Talisman or Salem's Lot to get me whetting my appetite for that. But after that one, we get one of what's reputed to be the best Stephen King TV work ever made. And so that's the one I'm kind of living for. Storm of the Century. People always talk about that being great.
All right, so thank you for that. Now, next week, we're going to be back with something totally different. Instead of Desperation with desperate actors, we're going to Martin Scorsese again.
It's not that different. I mean, a minority population that had white people take their stuff away 100 years ago. Yeah, they don't have tack. Tack is not the killer of the Flower Moon. But yeah, we're getting a slice of American history from one of our greatest directors and greatest actors working together for their 6th time. This is Leo and Scorsese. I'm looking forward to it.
So we will be covering that on next Tuesday. Meanwhile, this Friday, our fall-winter donation drive is kicked off, and we've brought out of the vault an older retrospective series. We reviewed Bird Box back when A Quiet Place Part 2 was supposed to come out originally before it got delayed by COVID. If you remember back in 2020, we reviewed Bird Box. Well, now it's time to review its sequel that I hear nobody talking about, Bird Box Barcelona.
Yeah, the only thing I know about is it's in Spain, and presumably people are wearing blindfolds. I don't know. Will we get to see the creature? Will they do something different? I don't believe that Sandra Bullock or any of the characters from that first movie are going to be in it, but we're going to see what it has this Friday.
Hopefully you can support our podcast to help us keep going. We're desperate for your donations this winter and fall, so thank you for your support of our podcast. Jacob, Stuart, thank you for joining me.
Talk to you later.
Stop. I command you to stop. Tack commands you to stop. The heart of the unformed commands you to stop.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Now Playing, and we hope you've enjoyed the show.
Your #1 fan.
Thank you.
Come back to NowPlayingPodcast.com to hear our reviews of other Stephen King movies, such as Carrie, The Shining, Children of the Corn, Cujo, and dozens more in our archive section.
Yeah, I pretty much stick with Dean Koontz.
Also on our site, hear reviews of other films such as Maniac, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Saw, Riddick, Friday the 13th, The Avengers films, Star Trek, and more. Find hundreds of movie review podcasts at NowPlayingPodcast.com and come back each week for another new movie review.
I have a lot to tell you. I just don't want to do it in here.
Also at NowPlayingPodcast.com/book, you can order Now Playing's film review collection, Underrated Movies We Recommend. This book has 125 reviews about films you probably haven't seen, but you should.
That'd make my whole day. Hell, that'd make my whole year.
Support from listeners like you help keep Now Playing operating.
These asses have a quota to make.
You can find a link to donate using PayPal at NowPlayingPodcast.com.
He gives us free will.
That's right. Good old free will. God bless God, huh?
You can also help out Now Playing by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. A link to Now Playing's iTunes listing can be found at nowplayingpodcast.com.
I hate critics.
Now Playing is edited by Arnie.
I have to do this.
Now Playing credit narration by Brock.
You're in my house now. You're in the house of the wolf and the scorpion. And don't you forget it!
The film discussed in this podcast is the property of its respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended.
You have the right to remain silent. If you choose to not be silent, everything you say can be held against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. I am going to kill you.
The opinions expressed on Now Playing are those of the individual hosts and may not reflect the opinion of Venganza Media Incorporated.
Do you understand your rights? Do you or not? Answer me, you smart aleck, blue state unisex swingles. Do you or not? Do you or not?
Now Playing is a Venganza Media production, copyright 2023. All rights reserved, and no part of this show may be reproduced, repurposed, or redistributed without the written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated.
If you have a choice between truth or legend, print the legend.
Yeah, and I want to give a compliment. I heard something that you said that really needs to be underlined.
Underlit. Wonder where your mind is on this movie.
That will come later in the film.
Yes.
Taka one.